Golf is one of the most played sports in the world, and it has given birth to some great moments between players. However, when things just don't go as planned, everything becomes a bit sour. Here are 13 of the greatest feuds in golf history. So let's get started working our way through the 13 of the greatest feuds in golf history. At number 1, PGA Tour versus PGA of America. The remaining flames of the war have mostly burned out, so this is very much a back-in-the-day type of conflict. But how can you leave out a fundamental conflict in American golf? At this point, one organization is divided into two: the PGA Tour, which oversees competitions, and the PGA of America, which serves as the game's primary grassroots organization. The PGA Tour began in 1968, when several players, including Jack Nicklaus and Arnold Palmer, became sufficiently frustrated with the unequal distribution of professional golf's earnings. Coming in second, Rory Sabatini versus Ben Crane. Ben Crane is known for being a slow player, and Rory Sabatini is known for being a ball of wrath, so it might have been more unexpected if nothing happened when the two were matched together 3 times at the 2005 Booz Allen Classic. On Sunday, Sabatini played through the last few holes before losing his cool. However, after putting his approach shot into the water on the 17th hole, he lost his composure and walked up to the green before Crane could put his second. Sabatini didn't wait for Crane to swing before chipping, putting, and walking to the 18th tee. In this scenario, the feud was more of an isolated event, for which Sabatini quickly apologized. Third on the list, Patrick Reed versus Jordan Spieth. Feuds often start when two people are very different from one another, or very similar, and in this situation, it's the difference that causes the fight. At least, that's how it seemed at first. Their chemistry at the Ryder Cup at Gleneagles in 2014 was outstanding, and it persisted at Hazeltine in 2016 and the 2017 President's Cup. The first indication of a schism appeared in 2018, that March, when Reed was turned down for relief at Bay Hill. He complained, "I guess my name needs to be Jordan Spieth, folks." The real fireworks, though, occurred in Paris later that year, when Reed gave his infamous backstabbing interview. The issue, obviously, with Jordan not wanting to play with me. I don't have any issues with Jordan. When it comes right down to it, I don't care if I like the person I'm paired with, or if the person likes me, as long as it works and it sets up the team for success. Next up at number 4, Tommy Bolt versus Eric Brown. The fiery Scott and Thunder, respectively, were the names of the two men. Must I say more? At the 1957 Ryder Cup, they were paired together in singles, and when Brown established a 3-up lead, he believed the American Bolt was playing slowly on purpose. His response? He told his caddy to go fetch a chair. When Bolt said he hadn't liked the match after Brown had won, Brown rubbed it in. "I don't suppose you did, because even when you knew when the games were drawn that you never had an earthly hope of beating me." Bolt then fired back at the English crowd. Individually, they are pretty nice folks, but get them together and they're about as miserable as a bunch of people as you could ever have the misfortune to run into in a supposedly civilized world. Number 5 is Tom Watson versus Gary Player. To cut a long story short, Watson charged Gary Player with fraud. The conversation took place at the 1983 Skins game and was intended to be private and away from the drama, but New York Times writer Dave Anderson overheard it in a parking lot and decided to write about it. In response to Watson's claim that Player had altered his lie by shifting some grass blades before a chip shot, Player argued that he was acting within the rules. At least officially, their animosity subsided, and Watson deeply regretted that what he had thought was a private moment had been made public. The 6th feud between Vijay Singh and Phil Mickelson. Singh must be included in this list in some capacity, since, as other commentators have said, he appeared to have a beef with everyone. We'll make do with Mickelson, who Singh exposed for leaving lengthy spike marks on the greens at the 2005 Masters. Mickelson's recent remark on the subject is a masterpiece in discipline. After sitting in the locker for a while, I heard Vijay talking to other players about it, and I confronted him. He expressed his concerns. I expressed my disappointment with the way it was handled. I believe everything is fine now. According to the New York Post, what happened was an animated shouting match that nearly evolved into blows. 7th is Sergio Garcia versus Nick Faldo. All of this is a result of the terrible 2008 Ryder Ryder Cup, during which Feuds provided the worst performance by a European captain in 40 years as the Americans trampled on them at Valhalla. European circles felt that defeat more deeply than it may have appeared from the outside, which led to some significant soul-searching and a change in how team captains were chosen. Garcia's Ryder Cup skills were criticized in 2014 on the Golf Channel, and Feuds responded by suggesting the Spaniard had been useless there. Later, Feuds brought attention to Garcia's lack of emotion following his breakup with Greg Norman's daughter. Later, Garcia had won 3 points in Paris and had become Europe's all-time Ryder Cup point leader. Next on the list at number 8 is Karsten Manufacturing Corp versus USGA. The Ping I-2 clubs, which were in contention, had square U-shaped grooves as opposed to the more typical V-shaped grooves. The actual issue the USGA had was complex. It involved the distance between the grooves, but it sparked a protracted legal battle during which the USGA refused to recognize the clubs, and the PGA Tour outright forbade square grooves, possibly as a result of studies demonstrating that the grooves increase spin rate. The USGA lawsuit was settled out of court in 1990 with the following agreement. The USGA would acknowledge the current Pink I-2s and Ping would cease production. KMC sued both the USGA and the PGA Tour. Ninth is Seve Ballesteros versus PGA Tour. The 28-year-old Ballesteros disagreed with the tour's condition that he competes in 15 American events at a minimum to be eligible for membership in 1986. He notably mentioned Commissioner Dean Beeman, who retorted that Ballesteros was the one who had first proposed the 15 tournament threshold. Unfortunately, he burned out after participating in 15 events in '84 and rapidly changed his mind. Due to the public nature of the dispute, he effectively kicked off the tour in 1986 as a result. By 1989, people were beginning to question whether the two men's animosity would ever be resolved. Berman stood up to Ballesteros and prevailed by preserving the field strength of his tournaments. Now for Tiger Woods versus Sergio Garcia at number 10. The Tiger is the distant legend, quietly self-assured and passionately private, who until recently was happy to give very little of himself and to mostly remain a product for our expectations. The rivalry between them intensified after he challenged Tiger at the 1999 PGA Championship at Medina. It proceeded to the Battle of the Bighorn, a made-for-TV competition where Sergio defeated Tiger and responded with excessive joy. At this point, he incited Tiger's competitive rage, and for the next 15 years, he consistently defeated him. Sergio didn't need Tiger to dramatically misfire. Before his 2017 Masters victory, it was largely what he did when under duress. 11 is Brooks Koepka versus Bryson DeChambeau. Here's the next one. We live in a crazy digital age where narcissism and manufactured drama are the norm, so it would be tempting on the surface to minimize the Koepka-DeChambeau feud as nothing more than two guys who don't like each other getting bored on Twitter or rolling their eyes on TV. It is distinct due to two things. First off, they are both incredibly talented and huge champions who are most likely to win more. Second, as far as I know, Koepka's action of subtly encouraging supporters to jeer DeChambeau and rewarding them for doing so is unheard of. 12th on the list is Lee Trevino versus the Masters. Trevino boycotted Augusta National for 3 years, in 1970, 1971, and 1974, which is rare in the history of modern golf. At the time, he publicly said he was skipping it because he didn't play well on the course, but he later acknowledged it was because of a disagreement with club co-founder Cliff Roberts. It's also true that Trevino didn't like the onerous restrictions or the snobbishness he saw at Augusta, and one year he chose to change in the parking lot rather than use the clubhouse, although he never even notified his fellow professionals at the time. Even after his return, Trevino was unable to break through at Augusta despite winning all the other majors twice each. Lastly, at number 13 is Paul Azinger versus Seve Ballesteros. Here we see the other extreme of the conflict spectrum, as two quite similar individuals clash over their interests. In actuality, the connection was amicable to begin with and respectful to conclude. However, at the 1989 Ryder Cup, Azinger pulled pulled the unexpected move of refusing to let Ballesteros exchange a scuffed ball on the second green after being warned by colleague Curtis Strange to be wary of gamesmanship in their Sunday singles match. "Is this the way you want to play today?" Ballesteros allegedly asked, and their relationship was ruined as a result. According to Sampson, Ballesteros challenged a drop Azinger took out of the water on the 18th hole of that match, and Azinger ultimately prevailed. These golf moments have played an iconic part in golf history and will always be remembered by fans. Which golfer is your all-time favorite? Who do you think had the greatest feud of all time? Make sure to let us know your thoughts down below. Thanks for watching.